welcome back. Welcome to Goth Mother's Closet, or Goth Mother's reselling adventure. Not really reselling, I'm just trying to move things along into the world. Um, I mostly sell on Poshmark and venturing a bit into eBay and Etsy. Anyways, I haven't been here for a while, but now I'm back because more stuff's happening. So the Canadian postal strike is over, so things are starting to move again. The packages that had been held up for my clients have made it through, and then a couple of orders people made during the postal strike have made it through. And it seems like things are back on track, at least in my part of the world. Toronto, I mailed something a couple days ago and it arrived like the next day, so yay. Back on track. Back in black. Yeah, back in black. Anyway, so now I've noticed on some of the YouTube channels, not a lot because there's not a lot of Canadians talking about this, but a few. Um, some people are worried. Oh, actually, before I get into that, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, especially sharing if you think I'd give any good information. I know I ramble a lot, but I like to think I only pop on if I have something to say. So I'm saying it. Yeah, so some people are upset or wondering or curious or confused about the CRA and Poshmark and taxes. And I just want to let you all know it shouldn't be a big scary new thing for you. It really shouldn't be because it's just part of doing business. You make money, you pay taxes. But then there's all the other stuff, the loopholes, the this and that. So I'm not going to get into super specifics about things, but so I'd just like to say that Poshmark Canada is now going to be reporting to the CRA what you have sold over the year. And to some people, that's very scary. I'm not sure why, but they're upset. They don't really understand it. But as someone who has been a freelancer, self-employed, contract worker, gig worker, and so on over the last 20 years, 30 years, I've been doing my own taxes. I always file as self-employed, even times where I'm teaching at a university or I'm waitressing somewhere. I've had all kinds of jobs over the years. Some of my jobs have T4s. Oh, and I do background acting on TV shows and movies sometimes. So some of these jobs I get T4s for. So with something like the background work, that's as a contract worker. So with that, I get my tax slip or my T4, but I will have to pay taxes on it if I meet a certain threshold. And so this is sort of where people who are kind of new to being self-employed or a contract worker or a gig worker may not understand all this, especially if you're young and new and just kind of hanging out. So Poshmark is now starting is apparently going to now, I'm not sure if they're giving us slips or they're just reporting it directly or how that's all going to work. I should have looked that up before I hopped on. But you know, I'm a writer, so like Amazon, for instance, gives me a 1099 from the States every year, and that's a contract thing. So I add that into that self-employment. Other places I work, like Patreon, on my Patreon, if I've never I don't make much money on Patreon, but if I had made over a certain threshold, I would get a 1099 from that. And that's US talk, the 1099 stuff. But you know, those are jobs I had in the States. I add that to my little pile of all the tax things I do. So when you sell on Poshmark, you are self-employed. You're not even a contract worker or a gig worker or anything like that. You are literally self-employed. And then we have the different levels. But I've always Well, I'm new to Poshmark. I haven't made very much yet, and I've been selling my own things pretty much, especially the stuff I've sold so far. I have stuff listed that may or may not be my own things, but things I've sold so far are pretty much mine. And I haven't made that much money, maybe 500 bucks or something. So, I am not, scared, but I do report, if I had made over a certain threshold and it was reselling, I would report it. And so as a self-employed person, you can make a certain amount of money before you're taxed. Now, some of you may have full-time jobs and you do Poshmark on the side, so this might be new and confusing for you. Maybe you've never claimed your Poshmark earnings. And if you've made over a certain amount, shame on you. If you've been reselling, because it is taxable. And so now Poshmark is seeing that people are not claiming their earnings and they want a piece of the pie. Like, the government wants a piece of the pie of what people are doing on Poshmark, just like with eBay and everything else. So eBay's worldwide. I don't know what, I've never made enough on eBay. Like, I've made like $10 this year, so I'm not worried about that. But Poshmark Canada will now be working with the government, and that's fine. You shouldn't be scared. So if you are selling your own items, like literally from your closet, you don't have to pay tax on that because it's your own stuff and you're selling it. If you are buying things to resell, once you hit a certain number, and I don't know what that number is, you have to research it, you have to start claiming your income on that, and then it may or may not be taxed depending on what your overall income is. If you have a full-time job or a part-time job, or if you're like me, you do a whole pile of different things, which may or may not add up to a lot at the end of the year. So, but the reality is in Canada, if you have a garage sale, you're selling stuff on Poshmark, selling stuff at flea markets, selling stuff on Max Sold and all that, if it's not your own stuff, you're supposed to claim it. So if someone gives you, like a set of Waterford stuff and you sell it for $1,000, you're supposed to claim that as income because it is. It wasn't your stuff. Your friend gave it to you and you're selling it now. So you need to claim it as income. And then depending on how much money you made that year and what tax bracket you're in, you may or may not have to pay income on it. Now, the cool thing about being self-employed, and you would probably fill out one of those self-employed pages. I know whenever I do my own taxes, so I always see there's always slots for, do you have an online store? And so you'd go to that part on the tax form. Yes, have an online store. Poshmark, how much did you make? 0 or 50, or and fill it out. And so when you're doing that, if you're a reseller, you're not just pulling stuff out of the closet to sell. You can actually add expenses, right? So if you're submitting that, let's say you made $40,000 last year on Poshmark, definitely you can claim your expenses. And some of you may not know what expenses are when it comes to being self-employed. So you're working out of the home, presumably. So you can actually claim part of your home as your business. So when I do my US taxes, I have to actually measure the area. But in Canada, I think you just say you use like 1/3 or 1/2, or I can't even remember. I've been doing it so long, it just automatically is on my thing. So you claim your home office space, where whatever you want to call it, where you package your stuff and mail it. If you have a storage unit, which I do, and if you have a storage unit where you keep your stuff, or maybe that's where you do all your stuff, maybe that's where you do your shipping and stuff, you can claim that storage unit as a business expense. So if you're paying $300 a month for storage, You slap that on your business expenses. If you're using a posh uh, sharing dicky-do like Prime Lister or Sidecart or whatever they're called, um, you can claim that expense. You can claim that $30 you pay to Prime Lister every month. That's a business expense. Boom. $30 times 12, whatever that is. If you are paying for a cross-listing thing, because maybe the thing you use to share isn't the same platform that you're using to do your cross-listing, you add your $30 or whatever for your cross-listing thing. $30 times 12, boom. And also, if you're paying US dollars, don't forget to calculate it into Canadian. Even better, right? If you are driving around buying stuff for your business, you can claim your gas. You can claim your car. You can claim car expenses. Now, I personally haven't been claiming my car for many years because there's pros and cons to claiming your car. If you claim your car as a business vehicle, because that's what you're doing, if you're saying you're using your car to buy all your reselling items or to drive you to your dog walking job or whatever you're doing, it becomes a business vehicle. And that's all fine and dandy when you go through your tax forms. Yeah, take off the gas, take off, repairs, take off this and that. However, when it comes to your insurance, if you're claiming your car as a business expense on your taxes, you have to have the insurance as a business vehicle. Now, you may already have your car insured as a business vehicle because maybe you drive it to your day job and back, and so you already have that, and that's fine. You don't have to worry about that. But if you're someone like me, that I just work out of my home most of the time, my car is a pleasure vehicle, and so I don't have it insured under business expense as a business insurance. So therefore, that's why I don't claim it on my taxes as a business vehicle, because when I crunch the numbers, it makes more sense to me, for me, to have a pleasure vehicle that I drive, a couple times a week to get my groceries or whatever, and not get the deductions for having a business vehicle because my insurance is way cheaper. So it depends where you live, what you're doing, what your deal is, and what you're already dealing with. So you have your car may or may not be a business expense. So you have your home. Then if you're buying things to resell, every penny you spend on your inventory, that's a business expense. You can claim that. And so on and so forth. Oh, so envelopes, bubble wrap, stickers, paper, printers, computers, all that stuff are write-offs. Write it all off. They're all business expenses. So keep track how much you're paying. Maybe you have one of those fancy little label thermo dicky doos. Buy that. Did you buy a scale for your business? There's eBay, we gotta weigh all our stuff. So, Poshmark, you don't have to weigh it, but maybe you bought a scale for your business. That's deductible, right? So when you're upset about paying taxes and all that on your Poshmark earnings, don't forget about the expenses. You may find you're in a negative. Maybe you spent $5,000 on storage units, sharing thing, the cross-listing thing, inventory, and you only made $3,000. So you have a $2,000 business loss. They might owe you money, right? So don't be scared or nervous. You should have been reporting your income all along, and you're supposed to report everything. In Canada, you're supposed to report everything from tips, if you babysit or dog walk, or, if you're, I did dog walking, but I went through one of those services, so is taught. But if you're taking $15 a week from your neighbor to walk the dog, you're actually supposed to report that. I know most people don't, but you're supposed to. If you're cleaning houses, charging $50, you do 10 houses a week, you're supposed to claim that. You're supposed to tell the CRA you have made that money. And if they find out you've made that money and you didn't report it, you're in big trouble, man. Like $10,000 fine or something. When you're signing that tax form at the end of the year and it says this is truthfully and honestly all the money I've made and it wasn't, yeah, you can be in trouble. So remember that too. It's best just to stay above the board. Then you don't have to, the problem with lying is you have to remember the lies and you get into this whole tangled web of this and that. So I just want to say, don't be nervous or afraid or weirded out by the fact that Poshmark's reporting your income, because you should have been reporting it all along. And now Poshmark has to do it because I suspect a lot of people weren't. And now the CRA has noticed, and this is where we're at. But yeah, so if you're reporting your income, don't forget to report your expenses. And there's probably other expenses I can't think of right off the bat. But yeah, don't forget. Keep all your receipts. Depending on how you file your taxes, you may not actually have to show them, but keep all your receipts. And I know we have the, like if you use your credit card for everything, that's what I do. I use my credit card for everything. Excuse me. And before I had a credit card, I was using my debit card for everything. When it came to anything of my gigs or freelance jobs and stuff, I always pay. If I buy clothes for background work, I pay credit card. If I, get my hair done because I have to do something related to one of my jobs, keep the receipt and all that, right? You'd be surprised how much stuff you can claim and some stuff you can't claim. So read the columns, read the directions. But yeah, so being self-employed is a whole different thing than the day job. And so your earnings from Poshmark, if you're a reseller, may or may not bump you up to the next tax bracket. And then you have to sit and think, is it even worth doing this if you end up finding that, all the money you've made extra from your day job on Poshmark actually that isn't actually helpful, and you may just decide to donate it and be done with it all. But that's up to you. Anyways, I just want to say, don't be scared. Just, keep track of your expenses, keep track of your income. Well, Poshmark keeps track of it for us, so that's nice. And yeah, and then right now, go out and buy all kinds of things. Well, we still have that GST freeze here in Canada. We don't have to pay tax on stuff for another couple weeks, so get out there and buy stuff. Good time to buy stuff. All right, so that was my friendly neighborhood talk. Your goth mother here giving you gotherly advice. And I hope you all have a wonderful new year. Happy New Year. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you soon when something else happens.